So, as promised, take a deep seat. It's my favorite author, and as you can tell, this book touched me deeply. It is Maisey Yates' Cowboy Christmas Redemption, a Gold Valley novel. As snowflakes fall in Gold Valley, Oregon, will this rugged cowboy finally win the woman of his dreams? Cowboy Caleb Dalton has loved single mom Ellie Bell and her little daughter Amelia for years. But since Ellie is the best friend's widow, Caleb's head knows that Ellie will always be strictly off limits, if only his heart got the memo. So when Caleb discovers that Ellie has a Christmas wish list and hopes for a kiss under the mistletoe, he's throwing his cowboy hat into the ring. If anyone's going to be kissing Ellie and sharing this magical time with her and her daughter, it's him. Ellie has dreaded the holidays since losing her husband, but this year she's finally ready to make some changes. She never expects the biggest change to be the heart-stopping kiss she shares with Caleb. For almost 5 years, Caleb has been the best friend, her rock, her salvation. This Christmas, can Caleb prove that he's also missing, he's the, I'm getting tongue-tied, he's also the missing puzzle piece of Ellie and Amelia's heart. Like I said, my Christmas spirit is pretty null and void, but this book is a good, it's a good way to try and get you in the spirit if you're not in the spirit. And I love that we start off with a Bible phrase. For anyone who needs some extra hope this season, Romans 15:13. And that's truly me. And now I think that's why this book touched me so deeply, was when you lose, some important family members, and it's like, you just wonder, what is your purpose? Other than helping others and wanting to do good for others, what is your purpose? And we're just going to read the pages now that touched me so deeply. And I want you to pick up this book. I will give you the rating afterwards. If there was one thing she learned, it was that you couldn't plan everything, no matter how much you might want to. Who does that sound like? Yeah, yours truly. Okay. Page 150. Maybe I didn't have a game. Maybe I just want to see where this goes. Maybe you should do the same. There doesn't have to be a game. You can just see how something goes and see how something feels and go from there. And I did want to share her Christmas list with you. After all, this is what he reads, and he takes the initiative to put himself as the one who is her quote-unquote Santa, who fulfills her Christmas dreams and wishes. And that's one hell of a man. I think that's why I was so drawn to this book, because it does make you believe in the impossible. And that miracles happen during the Christmas season, if not all year long, if you just believe. Right? That's what we're supposed to do and say. Ellie's Christmas list. Get a new dress. Number 1. Number 2. Go dancing in that dress. Number 3. Get a kiss under the mistletoe. This is when his vision starts to blur. Number 4. Make out by the fire. And number 5, she couldn't write it at first, but then she did. The big one. That's all we're going to call it for our perspectives. Let's go to the next paperclip. Page 200. I'm scared, she said. I just want to fill spots on a list. I wanted to move forward. I wanted it to be familiar. I wanted it to take me back to who I was before he died, the he being her husband and his best friend. But it isn't going to happen, is it? I'm never going to be her ever again. I'm stuck being this person who feels all these things so deeply, and I never did before. Before Clint, I just studied. I was going to change my life, change my future. I was going to do it myself, and I wasn't going to care about anyone, and then I met him. He showed me this beautiful side to my life, and I can't find it, not anymore. Everything hurts. Wanting you hurts. Loving Amelia hurts. Thinking about the future hurts. And all of it is so deep. These feelings, and I don't. It's too late, he said, leaning in and his mouth almost touching her. It's too late to go back, and you know that. So we're going to move on. I want to make you interested in this book. I want you to read this book because it is about a Christmas list. He takes the initiative to be the one to step up, so to speak, to be the Santa Claus, to be the one to make the impossible happen. And it's just amazing that men like that only exist in books and movies. Just saying. Okay, page 255. And so wonderful and light it was, easy to forget the way that he had come to her house and taken her with so much intensity, the way that he had made her admit that she had been attracted to him before. Before what? You have to find out. Read the book. 285. I understand why you feel the way you do, but you need to understand that what you have shown me of yourself matters a whole lot more. You're my protector, she said, when grief threatened to drown me, and you were there. And if I hadn't had your arms to hold me up out of the waves, Caleb, I don't know what I would have, would have done. You were there when Amelia was born. You were the man who does, and all those actions and all that hard work, it matters. In the end, it's everything, because if somebody says a whole lot of pretty words but can't be there when it matters, then it doesn't matter. I think that's the greatest part of the book, probably. Page 292. You brought this magic to us, and we needed it because I know what it's like to grow up without it. And it's not about money or gifts, not really. It's about being able to believe in magic, in something. The kind of insane magic that puts a puppy under your tree on Christmas morning. I don't want Amelia to grow up afraid of the world, angry at it. I hope I'm wanting you to read this book and enjoy it half as much as I did. It was very enlightening. Page 307. He breathed out the gust of air, harsh sound and silence visible in the cold. He looked down, and then he looked up at her, his eyes burning with intensity. I love you, and I've loved you from the moment I met you. I didn't even see him standing there when you walked in. Woman, you made the world fall away, and I know what you're Woman, you made the world fall away, and I know that you're never going to love me the way that you loved him, meaning her first husband, his best friend. But I don't care. That's how much I love you. I love you enough for the both of us, and I love Amelia like my own. I already do. I don't need you to give me any damn thing, woman. Just let me take care of you. Let me have you, because if you don't, then my life is never going to be anything. Christmas tree farms, cattle farms, what the hell ever. None of it matters. It's all just me trying to fill a hole, and I thought that I could do that. I thought that I could draw a line under you, under this, and call it done. But it's never going to be done, not for me. He might have been the only one for you, but you're the only one for me, and that won't go away. He's not here, I am, and let one of us have it. Let's see. I'm sorry, she said. Don't you dare apologize to me, he said. I didn't want to hurt you. You're hurting yourself. He had proposed. She turned him down. So let's keep reading the book here. You're hurting yourself. Don't bullcrap me, Allie. Don't do it. I have known you and loved you for more than 10 years, and I can see that you're scared. You're scared of the loss. You don't know what the hell I'm scared of, Caleb, and you know what? You're not going to, because my life is going to be my life, and your life is going to be yours, and we should have drawn a line under it and call it done. This is yours, he said, pulling out the ring box. I don't want it. It's yours, he repeated. Merry Christmas. I'll make sure Amelia gets her puppy on Christmas morning, and someone will bring it. You don't have to. She deserves the magic, he said. And then he stopped with a muscle in his jaw jumping, a slight tremor to his lip, and shocked her, but he composed himself. I'm still here to give her that, and I give it to you too if you let me, but don't take it from her. I would never keep her from you. Well, I don't know what you would do. Not at this point. Then he walked away from the house, headed out towards his truck. Where are you going? Oddly, I'm not in a Christmas mood now. enjoy the party, so she stood there watching him go, and damned if it didn't feel like her heart had gone with him. She looked down at the ring box in her hand, and she wondered if it was too late for her to salvage anything at all. She felt like her life was falling apart for the second time, except this time she'd broken it herself, and she didn't know if it could ever be fixed. Page 314. Life wasn't fair, and you couldn't make it. So two people who loved each other had to be separated sometimes, and that didn't always mean that there would be more happiness. Sometimes it just meant someone else ended up in love alone. Page 316. It taught him so much, Tammy continued. His life was too short, Ellie. This is his mom, Caleb's mom, who raised the best friend, Clint, that passed away. But Ellie, who is the widow, is taking it extremely hard, and her son, Caleb, had proposed, and she turned it down, so I'm trying to catch you up to speed. And I know he didn't get to be a father, and he would have been a damn good one, but he got to be your husband, and that made him happy until his dying day. And how many people can say they were happy until their dying day? Not enough. But he was, because of you, because you gave him that gift. You gave him a gift of a happy life. Caleb gave him that gift. Don't deny yourself happiness because you think you owe some kind of eternal sadness, some kind of eternal statue to his memory. Something felt like it broke inside her, came loose, and a flood of emotions washed forward. And I want you to read the part for yourself there. Love always had a cost because the loss of it would be devastating. Love was heavy as it was beautiful, like a precious stone. And whenever you had something of value, you worried about and losing it. And then there it was. There was Caleb himself. The depth of what she felt for him encompassed her whole body. It encompassed her soul. That thing that she felt for him, it was different. It was deep and rich and terrifying. And what that man looked at her and said that he loved her, and she wanted to run from it because his love would give it for years to come. It also took. His love was a demand as much as it was a blessing. And it was why she had turned away from the question in his eyes that days up on the ridge. And why she turned away from him now. Because love terrified her. When she'd been young, and she was easily digestible to love, it had been real. It had given her something beautiful, stability like she always craved, a confidence in herself that hadn't been there before, and it had given her Amelia. It also had been lovely, it had been good, but Caleb was her heart and soul in a way no one ever had been before. An enduring love that her heart had recognized from the first day they met, and that she'd held at arm's length for safety. I've never wanted to need anybody, she said. I grew up watching my mother need men, and she never only wanted to be hurt by it. I needed my mother. She didn't give me what I want, and I never wanted that. I've been hurt plenty of times, and I hurt Hank, and I would never suggest anybody should model their marriage off of ours. But you know sometimes that you can't find that one that just sticks with you. But I chose a different one, she said. I know you did. You made the best choice for you at that time. Or you made the only choice you could make. Those words settled within her, and she took a hold of them, turned them over, and examined them from every angle. She had made the only choice that she could make at that time. She would never have been able to have a relationship with Caleb, not then. They would have consumed each other. There would have been no finishing school, and that was for sure. She wouldn't have been able to handle him, and she didn't know if he would be able to handle what he'd gotten back as much as he believed he wanted it. But for now, she was different. She was stronger. She had walked through fire and come out harder, and now she needed what he was. That man who'd always stood there waiting for her. He was the only man that would do for the only woman she was now. But she had to become brave enough. She had to find a way. Fear was like a wall, standing high before her, and there was no way to see what was on the other side of it. But she knew what was on the other side of it. Grief, loneliness, and maybe she could stay in her little house with Amelia, and she could be that kind of happy. Maybe she could find a future and hope on the other side of fear that would make all of this seem pale in comparison. If there was that one thing she did know about love, it was that it only added to her life. Yes, losing Clint had hurt, but he had given her things that she hadn't lost. even when she lost him. He made her a happy person. He had given her Amelia. Love was never a mistake. And Caleb, he made her whole. And if she had felt broken for even a moment, when she was standing in her kitchen watching the man move around her as if he belonged, it was because of those jagged edges. They were rearranging themselves so that they could fit together. Because he was hers, her shelter, her strength, her intensity. He was the man who brought her through the fire, through those woods. We're going to move forward. Page 334. Fear would have kept them apart, and realization of now what made her ache. She would have kept herself from that love. She would have kept herself wanting forever. She wondered about that intensity fire between a man and a woman. She seen it in Caleb's eyes when he come to that bar and pulled her off that dance floor. She wanted to test it, taste it. She wanted to immerse herself in it because anything all-consuming was her own personal nightmare. But there she was, no flirting with this. This was all, or it had been nothing. So she was ready to give it all because without Caleb, her life felt like a whole lot of nothing. Emotion knotted up in her throat made it hard for her to speak. The words she was so desperate to say, her heart was pounding so hard, her hands were shaking. But there she was on the other side of fear, and Caleb was right there with her. I do love you, she said, with the words breaking. Caleb, I was so afraid of that kind of love. All of my life I feared it because the need of it broke me. So I decided not to need it. I decided that what I could want and still be safe. I was happy there. I was happy being safe. He didn't speak. He only looked at her, his expression carved from that beautiful granite face, and she knew she owed him everything first. Knew that she had to be the one to say it all first because he already had. Hadn't he already stood there radiating emotion, told her that he loved her in all of his life? He had, and she turned away, wanted him to protect herself. I was so afraid, she whispered, to let go, to move on, because there is safety in fear, Caleb. There's safety in staying in grief, in holding on to the past. I started to change, and what I wanted started to change too. And when I found myself letting go of it without meaning to, I was afraid, because when I closed my eyes and pictured my wedding, you were the only man I could see. A muscle in his jaw pulsed, a blue fire lit in his eyes, and he stood motionless. I wanted to get back to that girl I was, and I thought that my Christmas list was going to be the way to do it. But instead of all the loss, all of the pain, all of our time together, those years alone, the time with you, I became the woman I needed to be now. And that woman loves you. Only you. Looks like we're going to be reading for a little bit here. She swallowed hard. It was difficult work keeping your soul when you'd hidden it away your whole life, kept a barrier between yourself and everyone. But with Caleb, she shouldn't do that. Part of her had always known that. Part of her had always feared that. But the broken road they were both walking was the one they could have walked only together. It was him, and somehow right now she felt it had always been. I've changed, I've survived, and I'm brave. This love, this terrified me so much, too far to take hold of it, Caleb. But I can't fear it any more, and I'm brave enough now to face whatever might come our way. I'm brave enough to be the woman that you can love you, because I know that I'm strong enough for it. What we have is, a smile curved her lips. She imagined kissing him, holding him tangled up in bed with him. And suddenly it seemed like he saw it too, because he moved forward, caught her up in his arms, and kissed her with a ferocity that made her heart feel like it might burst. He still wanted to kiss her. That was a very good sign. Forgive me, she whispered against her lips. I can't even talk tonight because my voice is going. Forgive me, she whispered against his lips as he continued to take small tastes of her between words and breaths. There's nothing to forgive, he murmured. Nothing at all. Whatever we have, whatever we are, we had to go through it to get here. Isn't he amazing? I had to break myself first, she said, a tear rolling down her cheek, to understand why I was so afraid. I chased love as a child, and I didn't get it back. My own mother thought that I was too much, and I believed her, so I decided to be less, and I found a way to be comfortable there. You demanded I be more, and that was the most uncomfortable thing of all. But now I know what I can feel. Now I know that what love can be, and I never can take less again. You ruined me." "Thank God," he growled, kissing her until she was dizzy. "Thank God." "You are my heart, Caleb Dalton." She rested her hand on his chest. "And I want to belong to you. You carried me through those dark times." "You keep saying that. Hell, even I say that. But, honey, you held me in your arms right back, but you got me through it, too. We can do anything as long as we're together." Okay, we're going to move forward. And, of course, this is where he's going to propose again. "Be my wife," he said, "for no other reason that this is love, and it's real. That we light up the night, and because there's never been another love like this. I'm selfish, Ellie. I want it all. I want your heart, your whole heart, and I don't mean I'll always love Clint, whether he's here or not, and I'll respect him until my dying day that you loved him and that he's Amelia's father. But I want to be your husband, me and only me. I want to be the man who holds you at night from now on till the end of our days." He reached out and put his hand on her cheek, stroking her gently. "But be mine because you want to be mine, not because you're lonely, not because, or be mine because you love me, and you love me because you can't help yourself. Knowing that how cruel this world can be, because I love you, and I may never be able to read without stumbling over my own words. I may never be able the gentlest but most caring man around, but I love you with all that I am, always have, always will." And this proposal was so different from the one behind at the truck, because she was still closed then, trying to have what she was wanting without letting herself be open, without letting herself feel. But she couldn't, not halfway, not with him. It could never be fine. It would be all, and it would be big, and you couldn't just hold all with folded arms and a closed heart. I was afraid of loving like this, afraid with loving all of me and would always mean wanting, because growing up it was. I told you about my mom and Christmas tree, and I told you how she said I wasn't enough, that I was needy, and that I would just never wanted to be that again. I wanted to be safe, contained, secure, and I found it. She breathed in deep. But I was still guarded. I was still protecting the deepest part of myself. And Caleb, you get right down to it, and it terrifies me. You stripped me bare in every way, and I didn't know if I could, and I didn't know if I could stand it. Sweetheart, why does this scare you so much? I could never do easy with you, Caleb, and I think something inside me always knew it. I had to be willing to give all of me, and that scared me too. I grew up not having my mother's love, not really, and I hoped that I wished I could, and I tried to make myself someone she would be proud of until this day. She said I was never enough. And then I realized I had to be enough for myself, so I stuck to that. All of those years I knew on some level that if I wanted to let myself want you, Caleb, I was so afraid of wanting and not having again, it just hurts too much. You have all of me, every last piece. I love you, she whispered, and I love you too, Ellie. All I always have. Caleb, I've always loved you. My heart changed forever when I went through what I did. The love that I held for you shifted shape right along with it, but it was always there. I have loved you with everlasting love, my friend, my lover, my safety, my help, my hope. I have loved you with everything. I have loved you with a shattered heart, and you've healed it, and you fill in all the cracks. Everything that I am, everything that I will ever be. Ellie. And then he did something totally unexpected. He got down on one knee again, pulled out the ring box. "You gave me a ring," she said. "I want you to keep it because it's a special ring, and that represents some things about us, but you mean that world means to me, but I want you to have this one too." He opened up and produced a most exquisite diamond ring she'd ever seen. "Where'd you get this? Honestly, thank God for those big box stores that expect men to be behind on Christmas shopping, and thank God for their jewelry counter. It was beautiful," she said. "I wanted to have this diamond ring. I was so focused on not seeing this at the same time the marriage you had, on not competing, but this isn't about competing. This is about deserving everything, and you and I deserve everything." "Yes," she said, "I'll marry you, yes, and I'll wear your ring, both your rings, any ring you want to give me. There's only one person that I probably need to ask." "Who?" "We need to get to my parents' house so we can talk to Amelia," which is her daughter. Okay. So he gives her the puppy, which Amelia squeals with delight, and then he asks to be her dad. And she responds with, "I love you, Daddy." And that was the greatest gift that he could ever ask for in all his life. Caleb Dalton had not made a Christmas list, but he had gotten everything he wanted, all the same. And to think that this Christmas miracle happens 1 year later, that they end up getting married. And one that started with a simple list ended with forever. Maisey Yates, you did it again. This gets a 20 on my book list. It is outstanding and one of the best that brought me to tears. And it was just great read from beginning to end. Thank you. Oh, before we leave, what book am I starting on? It's actually a love-inspired book, and I think I might have read it before, but I've never done a book review. So to be fair, we're starting this one. It's a love-inspired one, which gives us a Bible phrase first, then the story, which brings out the Bible phrase. And then, of course, I will do a book review when I get finished with it. But I had to come to you, share that wonderful, touching story. Go out. This book is available at most retailers right now, and if not, it's online. You don't want to miss this book. It's that good.